Joy. Where does it come from? Is it from the latest video game, another iPod, or from having the coolest clothes? Everything is relative. But in this world, joy comes from having hope. And to understand what that means, you have to understand where these kids come from. This is Haiti, one of the most destitute countries in the world. Over 80% of the people live below the poverty line. 75% of the people don't have jobs. 50% can't read. Just 4 years ago, here in the northern town of Gonaive, these 10 shacks were covered by 30 feet of water from Hurricane Jean. Those who survived by running to the mountains are now just trying to survive another day. This daily struggle is typical here in Haiti, and it makes me wonder, how does one negotiate the future of your country when you're just trying to feed your 4 children tonight? As the third poorest country in the world, with virtually no economic base to build upon, it would be easy to hop back on the plane and go back to the United States just a short flight away. Maybe send some money to a few sick kids, feed some meals, and leave the rest to another food aid organization. But that temptation is quickly erased as we drive out of hell on earth and towards what appears to be an oasis on the horizon. Instead of naked kids on garbage dumps, we see children with decent clothes, full stomachs. These are the orphans of Haiti, and what started out as 15 kids in a small orphanage has in 4 years grown to over 1,200 kids in 8 locations that have sprung up across the Haitian landscape. Most of these kids were on the streets at some point, due mostly to natural disasters, AIDS, poverty, or outright abandonment. In March of 2008, we visited these orphanages to see this mission at work firsthand. Now called the Global Orphan Project, this work was started by Kansas City couple Mike and Beth Fox. We noticed that the children's physical, educational, and even spiritual needs were being met. But there was still a huge gap. At each of these locations, there was very little and oftentimes no medical care available to these kids. As someone who makes his living in healthcare, it was disconcerting. And it raised the question in my mind, how can even their most basic needs be fulfilled over the course of time in this society without proper medicine, doctors, nurses, surgical procedures, and the facilities to house them? Those who started this work had already seen the need, and it wasn't long before I began to realize why we were really here. Not just for one trip, but for something more substantial, something bigger. For the next few months, the vision started coming together. Back in Leawood, Kansas, at the offices of Nuterra Healthcare and the One5 Foundation, people with the same passion began putting the pieces together and started asking the questions.
They don't do that now.
Could we build facilities? What doctors would we work with, both in-country and out? How and when do we get a baseline medical assessment on the kids? In August, we returned to Haiti with a staff of medical volunteers to do just that. In 2.5 days, our staff of 2 doctors, 2 nurses, and other medical volunteers assessed over 500 children. Food and waterborne illnesses such as parasites were common. Some kids had malaria or typhoid. Others were still feeling the effects of malnutrition, even though they were being fed good meals daily. Dental needs were numerous. It was eye-opening, sometimes difficult, but mostly amazing. And it's just the beginning. The children that we assessed that week were sweet, loving kids who, more than anything, wanted someone to hold their hand, hug them, and just give them some attention. And we were happy to oblige. But I also realized something deeper. I realized that once you see the rest of this struggling country, these kids are what I call the children of hope. They are the future of Haiti. and we have the opportunity to see them through. Can we change a country in a generation by providing good medical care to orphans and their surrounding communities? We are just one part of the puzzle that also includes education, housing, spiritual fulfillment, and microeconomic enterprises. It takes all of it, but none of it works without us. So this is my goal: to save lives, to change lives, and to do it over a generation. Call me crazy, but I think it can be done.